Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us. The site is the Cincinnati Gardens in Cincinnati. All set for tonight's third game of the best of 7 Eastern Conference Turtle Cup Championship Series, featuring the Cincinnati Cyclones as they collide with the defending Turtle Cup champion Fort Wayne Komets. The referee tonight is Dennis LaRue. The linesmen are Kevin Malvin and Dan Sass. Before the starting lines for the opening face-off, Cyclones and Fort Wayne, our national anthem. Live from the Cincinnati Gardens, where it's game number 3 of the Eastern Conference Turtle Cup Championship Series, featuring the Cyclones and the defending Turtle Cup champion Fort Wayne Komets. The starting lineups for Fort Wayne: in goal door left, Peter Sidorkewicz, 4th-ranked goaltender in the league in the playoffs. His 9th straight start, a record of 6-2, a goals against average of 2.73, and a save percentage of .912. Sidorkewicz in goal door left for Fort Wayne. Opening on the defense for the defending champions will be Igor Malykhin, returning after a 1-game absence, and the 32-year-old 8-year Komet veteran from the University of Michigan, Kerry Lucyk. The forward line on left wing for Fort Wayne to open will be Ian Boyce. At center, the league leader in minor penalties in the playoffs with 16, Glenn Berry shadow Dave Smith from Ohio State. And on right wing with a goal in each of the first 2 games, both in Fort Wayne, the former Kalamazoo wing and Milwaukee Admiral, Mitch Messier. Not in uniform for Fort Wayne, defenseman Guy Dupuis and Brian McKee, along with defenseman Cord Sertich. Also not in uniform tonight, right wing Shane Stevenson, center Doug Wickenheiser. The latter has played in each of the first 2 games. Left wing Steve Fletcher, also not in uniform tonight for Fort Wayne. For the Cyclones in goal door right will be Pokey Reddick, the second-rate goaltender in the IHL with a record of 4-1. A goals against average of 2.40. Reddick in goal door right, he leads the league in the playoffs with a save percentage of .926. Opening on the defense will be Gord Hines, who leads the league in shots on goal with 29. Gord Hines. And on right defense will be his fellow all-star Stepan Richer. The forward line of left wing with a goal in each of the first 2 games. He had 9 goals in 11 games to lead the Cyclones against Fort Wayne this year. Patrick LeBeau at center, the league scoring leader in the playoffs with 15 points on 7 goals, 8 assists in 7 games. And a league high 6 power play goals, Glenn Berry. And on right wing, in the absence of the injured Doug Barrault, who's expected back in the lineup for game 4 here on Friday night, will be Paul Lawless. Sidorkewicz in goal door left, Reddick in goal door right, and from the faceoff, Cyclones have it at their own line. Hines backs it up between the circles. Cross ice on the right, defensive zone line for Richer in the middle, center for Lawless. He darts to the Fort Wayne line, pooped off his stick by Lucyk. Kerry Lucyk on left wing at center. His pass in front of the Cyclone goal for Smith, halted by Hines. Puck in behind the Cyclone goal. Reddick will set it up for Berry. Berry leaves it for Hines. Hines right corner for Richer. Richer jammed by Boyce. Seized behind the goal by Mitch Messier. Centering it, blocked by Hines as Richer pulled over Boyce in front. Back come the Cyclones. Lawless at his own line for Berry. Berry tried to thread, went through at center for LeBeau. Behind the defense, That was halted. Barry charges after it deep in the left corner. Centered it. Blocked by Dave Smith. Cracked by LeBeau. Controlled at the Fort Wayne line by Messier. Now Mitch Messier motors through center. Reaches the Cyclone line, avoiding the Hines check. Swings wide to the right boards. Swept it around the backboard left side. For Fort Wayne. Dug out behind the goal. Cyclones are there to cover. On the left wing board is Patrick LeBeau. He swept it cross ice on right wing at center with all this. Couldn't catch up with that. At the Fort Wayne line on the left defense, Richardson drove it into the Cyclones' zone. Reddick himself swept it around the boards on the left wing at his own line for the bell. He steers to center. Tretowicz stepped up on the play to anticipate to return it behind the Cyclone goal. Rounding the net hurriedly is Armstrong. Chris Armstrong takes off and flat on the left wing at center. He sailed it in behind the goal. Carry him to the right corner for Leach. It eludes him. Control by Komets on the left boards. Backhanded to the Cyclone line. Control by the Cyclones, Jamie Leach. At center over the line on left wing for LaBelle. LaBelle leaves it left circle with Leach. Skidded off his skate. Puck to the right corner. Gauthier's there. Gauthier trying to center in front for LaBelle. Comes back to Gauthier, right corner. Now Gauthier centers it. Leach fired. Shoulder save by Sidorkewicz. He shrugged it with his right shoulder over the glass into the crowd. No further play. Wait a minute, 46 of the opening period. And we are scoreless from the Cincinnati Gardens. Face-off will originate left is Sidorkewicz, who has been sterling in the Fort Wayne goal as the Cyclones outshot the Komets in each of the first two games in the series in Fort Wayne. Don Biggs for the Cyclones, 10th in the league in scoring in the playoffs, 9 points, including a league-high 2 short-handed goals to oppose his opposite number, the captain of Fort Wayne, Cullen Chin, who won it. He had the winning goal Sunday night. Chin behind the goal for Lambert around the left wing boards. At his own line for Tsyplakov. Tsyplakov left for Chin, cycling back in front of his own goal. Trying to escape the clutches of Biggs and Greenlaw. Chin leads on left wing at center for Vladimir Tsyplakov. Reaching the Cyclone line where Purves and Nedved collided with the two tumbling. But when Purves fell, he set himself offside at the Cyclone line on left wing. No further play. Played 2:02 of period one, game scoreless from the Cincinnati Gardens, where the Cyclones have won 7 of their last 8 starts, and they have dismantled their opponents in that span, 44 goals to 20. However, the Cyclones mustered only 2 victories and 6 home affairs against Fort Wayne this year. Komets have won 5 in a row, all in the playoffs. That represents their longest win streak of the year. They're 2-1 on the road in the playoffs. From the face on the Cyclone zone, Nedved circle to circle on the left defense for Aikens, leaving for Nedved at the Cyclone line. Nedved on right wing at center for Don Biggs. He wheels in over the line, but Jeff Greenlaw's offside on the left wing for the Cyclones. No further play. And that'll produce a face-off outside the Fort Wayne line across the way from us on the Cyclone right wing, right in front of the Komet bench. 17:48 remaining in the opening period, and the game is scoreless. Now Len Berry is dispatched over the boards. He'll assume the right wing position with Don Biggs at center and Jeff Greenlaw left wing. Terry Murray mentioned on ice side with the Cyclones tonight that he will be employing Len Berry on several lines in several positions tonight to avoid his shadow, Dave Smith. Interesting to note that Smith and Berry are first and second in the league in the playoffs in minor penalties, 16 and 12. From the faceoff of the Fort Wayne line. Controlled by Kevin McDonald on the right defense. Now McDonald lugs for center. Sends it in behind the Cyclone goal. Reddick roadblocks for Nedved in the left quarter. Nedved up the board for Greenlaw. Eludes him in the blue line for McDonald. McDonald's pass halted by Berry, who sends Biggs away at center. Biggs at the Fort Wayne line. Shoots. Deflected in behind the goal by Malykhin. Now Biggs traces the rebound. Right circle for Nedved. Shooting. What a save by Sidorkewicz. Sprawling in front of the goal was Cullen Chin to sweep it down ice. Controlled by the Cyclones, Reddick himself. Reddick drove it the length of the ice from his left side of the goal. Back to reach it behind the Fort Wayne goal is Lucyk, encumbered by Berry. And once Len Berry corrals the puck, I think the Cyclones will be called on the 2-line offside pass. Berry disputes it with first the linesman and then the referee, Dennis LaRue, as we have a gathering behind the Fort Wayne goal below us and to our left. Apparently it will be a 2-line offside pass, or is it an icing call? I think they're now indicating that it's an icing violation to be imposed on the Cyclones. Reddick himself flagged it down and reeled it into the left side of his crease, and Pokey Reddick himself flung the puck the length of the ice. Faceoff will originate left of him in the Cyclone goal. Reddick was ranked number 2 in the IHL in the regular season. He's number 2 in the IHL in the postseason in goaltending of prowess. Barry in the face with Mindendorf. Won by Barry convincingly. Behind the goal for Hines. Now Gord Hines will start out. He leads on left wing to an open wing. At his own line, the puck banked off the boards in the Fort Wayne zone. Tretowicz will retreat with it behind his own goal in the Comet right defense. Now David Tretowicz along the board. Jammed by Barry. Stolen left circle by LeBeau. Spun around by Dave Smith. Smith from in front of the goal drove it to the line. Richer right point. Fired right on. Sidorkewicz grabbed that one with LeBeau and Barry right there encroaching the crease for the Cyclones. No further play. 16:41 remaining first period. Game scoreless. Face-off developing. Circle left to Sidorkewicz in the Fort Wayne goal. Cyclones head coach Terry Murray looking for the matchups that he prefers. The Cyclones now the homestanding team, so they have the last option on the line changes, and they will enjoy this option tonight, Friday night, and Saturday night, the latter if necessary. Face-off left to Sidorkewicz in the Fort Wayne goal. Play 3:19 of the opening period, and we are scoreless. Goche and Dave Smith on the face-off. All ready to go. Sticks come down. Won by Smith. They tangle forward truculently on the dot in the circle. Corralled on the left boards by Darin Smith. Rolled to the line. Kid contains right point. Kid's pass into the corner with a bell. Disrupted by Dave Smith. Behind of the corner for Richardson. He was drummed to the ice by Goche, but back comes Fort Wayne anyway. Darin Smith in the middle at center. Wrapped it in behind the goal. On at Armstrong. Converged down by Mindendorf and Smith. Both Smith and Armstrong fell, but back come the Cyclones. Goche jets through center. Over the Fort Wayne line, and Mark LaBelle is offside of the left wing for the Cyclones. No further play. 16:09 remaining in the opening period, and we are scoreless from the Cincinnati Gardens. The Cyclones entering tonight's game 4-3 overall in the playoffs. Fort Wayne is 6-2 in the postseason. Komets have never lost a playoff series in their 36-year history in the Turner Cup playoffs when they have surged into a 2-0 lead. Cyclones are looking to alter history and the beginning of the winning here tonight. Must win for the Cyclones tonight. From the faceoff, Gord Hines will cycle back to his own line. Hines on the left defense. On right wing at center for Stefan Richer. He'll chip one into the offensive left corner. Streaking in after behind the goal is Lawless. Lawless along the boards. Left side for Barry. Leaving it there for LeBeau near the blue line. Now LeBeau left point for Hines. Hines at the top of the slot for Lawless. Poke check by Malykhin. Kangarooing puck at the top of the slot. Seized by Fort Wayne. And the Komets, Lee Davidson with a breakaway pass at center over 2 lines. No further play. Mitch Messier had penetrated behind enemy lines. Faceoff will originate inside the Fort Wayne line across the way from us on the Cyclones' right wing. 15:42 remaining in the opening period. We're scoreless. The Cyclones had the only 2 shots on goal thus far. Cyclones limited Fort Wayne, which had the second most shots on goal in the regular season, to only 24 shots on goal Sunday night. Cyclones earned a far better fate in destiny, but instead they had to endure a 2-1 defeat. In fact, they not only endured it, they absorbed it. From the faceoff in the neutral zone, Dallas Aikens backs it up his own line on the right defense crisply for Nedved. Nedved at center. His pass halted at the Fort Wayne line by the Komets. Tsyplakov shouldered at center by a rapidly recovering Nedved. Control between the hash marks in front of the goal by Aikens at center for Don Biggs. Biggs wheels to the Fort Wayne line. Wrapped it in behind the goal. Digging it out is McDonald. Kevin McDonald around the left wing board for Tsyplakov at his own line. Vladimir Tsyplakov on the move at center. At the Cyclone line, he forgot the puck with trailing Chin. Chin at the top of the slot, right point for McDonald, shooting. Blocked by Greenlaw. Ricochets to the corner. Purves dug it out right in front of for Chin. He shoots, he scores. Colin Chin, and Fort Wayne takes the lead. 1-0. That puck ricocheted into the left corner. John Purves seized it and centered it. Colin Chin was unguarded at the edge of the crease. And on Fort Wayne's first shot on goal at the 4:58 mark of the opening period, they gain a 1-0 lead. That is Chin's 6th goal in the playoffs, and all 6 have been crammed into the last 5 games. And again, it came from a break. That puck ricocheted right onto John Purves' stick in the left corner. Chin from Purves at 4:58. And the Komets breaks have been countless in this series. They've received every conceivable break in this series thus far. And coaches will tell you I'd rather be lucky than good anytime. Chin from Purves and a rather gratuitous assist for Tsyplakov at 4:58. 1-0 Fort Wayne. Komets are 3-1 in the playoffs when they score the game's first goal. That was their first shot on goal in the Cyclone zone. Chris Armstrong on the left defense. He'll lug it to center. Wrap it off the backboard diagonally. Carry him to the left side of the crease. Sidorkewicz swept it past the approaching Goaltender left wing in his own line for Mindendorf. He was upended by LaBelle. Puck skids into the Cyclone zone. Racing after it on the left side is Darin Smith. Smith along the boards for Mindendorf. Colliding with LaBelle. Mindendorf's glove flew in the air. Puck to center zone. It was LaBelle's glove. At center, Tretowicz on left wing. Winds it around the Cyclone backboards all the way to the blue line. Mark LaBelle spins off the check on left wing in his own line of Kelly Hurd and wraps it the length of the ice. Reached behind the goal by Lucyk. Icing the call against the Cyclones. 14-18 left first period. 1-0 Fort Wayne. Chin from Tsyplakov and Purves at 4:58. Faceoff originates. Circle left of Reddick in the Cyclone goal. And again, that was a classic case of Fort Wayne receiving a rather fortuitous hop, this time a ricochet on the puck. And in accolades to the Komets, they've capitalized on the breaks in this series. They have laid back, waited for mistakes, and then exploited them. And that's the way they play, and it's that brand of hockey that has maddened the Cyclones all season long. Dave Smith through post, Len Berry on the faceoff, left of Reddick, Cyclone goal. 1-0 Fort Wayne. Won by Dave Smith, right point for Malykhin, pours it in the circle, shooting, deflected behind the goal by Hines, who fell. Dug out behind the goal by Malykhin as he rounds the net. Side of the goal for Fort Wayne's Lee Davidson. Davidson weaves along the left board, trying to deliver it behind the goal for Messier. Interceding on that mission to abort was Reddick, and back come the Cyclones. Hines through center. Gord Hines over the Fort Wayne line. Shoots, and he fired it wide. Fort Wayne penalty coming up. Action halted. Cyclones will have power play time. The time of the penalty will be 6:07. The Fort Wayne penalty box door will swing open, and it will await the arrival of the Komets' second-year defenseman from Russia, Igor Malykhin. Cyclones power play has produced 8 times in the last 4 playoff games. They're 2 for 10 in this series. Their power play is ranked 3rd in the postseason at 10 for 46. That's a proficiency rating of 21.7%. But they are confronting a Fort Wayne penalty killing team. The Komets are number 1 in the league in penalty killing, limiting the opposition only 7 for 47 on the power play. That's an 85% efficiency. Malykhin 2 minutes for holding the stick at 6:07. Face-off will originate. Circle right of Peter Sidorkewicz in the Fort Wayne goal. Len Berry to oppose Fort Wayne's Cullen Chin. Won by Berry. Left point for Richer. Left boards for Len Berry. Berry sets up. Now Berry does a spin around along the board. Down low side of the goal for Big. Centering for Hines right in front. And Purves was there to abort the mission and backhand down ice. Tracked down behind the goal by Stefan Richer. 1:39 with a power play. Now Richer right between the circles in front of his own goal at his own line to center circle. On the left side for Berry, who gains the Fort Wayne line. Leaves it left point for Richer. Right in front for Biggs. Biggs trying to direct it to the crease for the bow. Disrupted by Richardson, who drove it to center. Richer's on it on left wing for Berry. Over the Fort Wayne line for Don Biggs, and that's offside on the center avenue. No further play as Fort Wayne continues to leave the Cyclones in a disorganized state of affairs. 1:19 for the power play. 13-12 for the opening period. 1-0 Fort Wayne. I don't think there's any question that the Cyclones have far superior talent to the Komets. But at the moment, the Cyclones are finding the Fort Wayne team, as most have done the last 2 years, a rather perplexing puzzle to solve. Now Hines at center. Over the Fort Wayne line, pulls up on right point. Rink wide left board for the Bow. Left it there for Barry. Barry left point for Richer. Richer left board for Len Barry. Now Barry down low side of the goal for Biggs. Biggs fans out left board. Shoots right on. Sidorkewicz with the save. Rebound in front. Bow fired. Sidorkewicz with the save. Right in front of the goal. Biggs controls it. Biggs back on right point for Hines. Hines loads the gun. Top of the left circle for Richer. Now Richer, a sleek back pass finds Barry left boards. Barry comes off the boards, top of the circle. Down low side of the goal for Biggs. Right in front for Barry. Caught in his skates. Slithers to the crease. Smothered in a sprawl by Sidorkewicz. No further play. Boy, Don Biggs snapped the centering pass, but the puck was caught in the skates of Len Barry, who was completely uncovered in front of the Fort Wayne goal. And again, another break for the Komets because Len Barry was totally uncovered. 40 seconds for the power play. 12:33 for the opening period. 1-0 Fort Wayne. Face-off right of Sidorkewicz in the Komet goal. Gauthier to oppose Lee Davidson. Fort Wayne led the league in short-handed goals with 42-4 against the Cyclones. Gauthier won it. Left point for Kidd. Spinning off the check of Davidson. Kidd along the boards. Jammed by Davidson and Tretowicz. Tretowicz headbands on right wing at center of Messier. 2-on-1. Over the Cyclone line. Right circle shot. Reddick the save. Rebound in front. And Tretowicz scores. David Tretowicz short-handed goal. And it's 2-0 Fort Wayne. Oh my. Fort Wayne dangerous short-handed. That is their second short-handed goal in the playoffs. Fort Wayne has 3 shots on goal and 2 goals. And they have surged into an early 2-0 lead. David Tretowicz who had 3 goals all season long. Tretowicz from Davidson who forced Kidd into the turnover on left point at the Cyclone line. Tretowicz from Davidson and Messier at 7:41. Short-handed goal. First surrender by the Cyclones in the playoffs. Now Stephane Richer romps through center. Over the Fort Wayne line and right wing for Gauthier. Pulling up along the board left to right point for Hines. Hines pass blocked by Messier. 2-on-1 Fort Wayne again. Messier at center for Davidson over the Cyclone line. Right in front for Messier. He shoots, he scores. Mitch Messier. Another short-handed goal. And it's 3-0 Fort Wayne. 2 Fort Wayne short-handed goals in the span of 22 seconds. They led the league in that department with 22 this year. And now Fort Wayne has 4 shots on goal and 3 goals. They lead at 3-0. Oh my. Messier had 2 short-handed goals during the season, and one of them was a game-winning goal against the Cyclones. Messier from Davidson at 8:03 after Tretowicz from Davidson and Messier. 7:41, 2 short-handed goals in 22 seconds. And Fort Wayne's lead has mushroomed meteorically to 3-0. 2 short-handed Fort Wayne goals in 22 seconds. And that penalty is finally over to Malykhin. From the face-off, rounding the Cyclone net is Nedved. Now Yaroslav Nedved at his own line, left it at the line on the left defense for Aikens. Aikens just hoists the puck into Fort Wayne territory. LeBeau is behind the defense to dig it out behind the goal. He was sent cartwheeling by a Lambert trip. And there will be another Fort Wayne penalty coming up to Don Lambert for tripping at 8:24. Perhaps the Cyclones should decline it. Break in the action, 11:36 remaining, opening period. Fort Wayne 3, Cyclones nothing. This is Cyclones Turner Cup hockey.
Number 15, Kenny Lambert. 2 minutes for tripping at 8:24. Fort Wayne penalty number 15, Lambert. 2 minutes for tripping at 8:24. Cyclones on the power play.
Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live at a stunned Cincinnati Gardens, where Fort Wayne, on the strength of 2 short-handed goals in 22 seconds, had 3 goals on 4 shots, and with 11:36 remaining in the opening period, they have surged augustly into a 3-0 lead. Lambert for Fort Wayne, 2 minutes for tripping at 8:24. Face-off right of Sidorkewicz, Fort Wayne goal. Barry won it. Left point for Aikens. Right point for Nedved. Pointing in the circle. He shoots. He scores! Yaroslav Nedved. the face-off. The Cyclones power play capitalizes, but after they surrendered 2 short-handed goals. Yaroslav Nedved. Well, apparently they're going to credit the goal to Len Berry. Or is it Don Biggs? Thank you. Apparently Don Biggs deflected the Nedved point shot. Biggs, 4th in the playoffs, his first of this series from Nedved and Len Berry at 8:30. 6 seconds into the Lambert penalty had been assessed. 3-1 Fort Wayne. From the faceoff, Karam's around the Comet backboard, left side for Leach. Directs it in behind the goal, on it Richardson. He was crunched clamorously in the backboard by LaBelle. Seized by LaBelle, left circle. His turnaround shot was way wide. Rebound Karam off the corner boards to center. Ian Kidd will back it up at his own line. At his own line for Armstrong on the left defense. Armstrong drove it to center, where the Komets control. Richardson returned it behind the Cyclone goal, rounding the net Kidd. Kidd on left wing at center for Daniel Gauthier. Steering into the Fort Wayne zone. 10:47 of the period. 3-1 Komets. Rounding the Fort Wayne net with it is Malykhin on the left side. His clearing pass halted at center by Leach. Left at center circle where Armstrong wrapped it into the Fort Wayne zone. Whistle sounds, delayed offside will be levied on the Cyclones. 10:37 remaining in the first period. Let's recap. Covington 6 from Purves and Tsyplakov at 4:58. And that torched the Fort Wayne torrent of 3 consecutive goals. Less than 3 minutes later at 7:41. Tretowicz on a 2-on-1 from Davidson and Messier short-handed. Tretowicz first of the playoffs, 2-0 Fort Wayne. 22 seconds later during the same Igor Malykhin holding the stick Fort Wayne penalty. Mitch Messier converted on a 2-on-1 with Lee Davidson, his 5th in the playoffs. And he has scored goals in each of the games in this series from Davidson at 8:03. 47 seconds later and 6 seconds into their second straight power play. Down Biggs deflected home a Yaroslav Nedved shot from the right circle. Biggs 4th in the playoffs from Nedved, and Dallas Aikens at 8:30. From the faceoff, pucked into the Cyclone left quarter. Corralled by Don Biggs, and the Cyclones start out. Biggs at his own line, gathering speed at center. He'll chip one in behind the Fort Wayne goals. He was dumped in front by Lambert. Dug out along the Fort Wayne right boards by Purves. Purves up the boards for Chin, who just steered outside the line to center, where Hines turned it over to Purves. Purves over the Cyclone line and left wing for Lambert with a shot. Reddick the save. Rebound left board for Greenlaw. He just punched it off the board to the Fort Wayne line. Control by Lucyk. Lucyk rink wide left wing at center for Tsyplakov with the Cyclone line. Working on Richer, who spun him around. Corralled by the Cyclones, Hines. Hines from behind the goal, around the boards on left wing in his own line for Patrick LeBeau. Up the boards at center for Shahaki. Shahaki for Perry on the Fort Wayne line. Perry along the right wing boards. Centered for Richer. Richer shot blocked by Boyce, who went low. Richer has the rebound right point behind the goal for Barry, centering right in front. Davidson there to backhand to center. At center, Richer returns to the Fort Wayne zone. Controlled by Malykhin. Malykhin up the boards at center for Messier. Messier in the middle of the ice, center circle for Boyce. Boyce at the Cyclone line, poked off a stick by Aikens, doesn't matter. Komets offside on right wing of the Cincinnati blue line. No further play. Break in the action, 9:15 left first period. Fort Wayne 3, the Cyclones 1. This is Cyclones Turner Cup hockey.
Your contestant tonight's Snapple Slap Shot Shootout. And we have a Snapple sticker on the back inside cover. Your Turner Cup playoff program reports to the souvenir stand. You are a contestant in tonight's Snapple Slap Shot Shootout.
Back to the play at center zone. Mark LaBelle on right wing. Drove it into the Fort Wayne zone. I think that one landed in the Comet bench. No further play. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Cincinnati Gardens. 9:07 left first period. Fort Wayne 3, the Cyclones 1. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is Cincinnati Cyclones Turner Cup hockey. No voice tonight. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Cincinnati Gardens. Coming up to 9 minutes remaining in the opening period, 3-1 Fort Wayne. They've been the best first and third period teams in the IHL in the regular season and in the postseason. And the first period has been the Cyclones' worst period all season long. Now Max Mindendorf on left wing at center. Raked one in behind the Cyclone goal. Reddick himself directs it around the left wing board for the bell. At center for Gauthier behind Tretowicz. He jets it to the Fort Wayne line, left circle shot. Sidorkewicz the left pad save as Linden crashes the crease with the Fort Wayne player. The Komets' Dave Smith, and I believe Linden, in his first shift of the night, will be banished with a 2-minute minor. And the time of the penalty will be 11:23. And Fort Wayne center Dave Smith again inveigles a Cyclones player into a penalty. Linden, 2 minutes for interference. Jamie Linden with 2 minutes interference on the goaltender in the Fort Wayne goal crease at 11:23. Fort Wayne presented its first power play of the night. Their power play is ranked number 1 in the IHL, operating at 11 for 34 proficiency. That's 32.7%. Though the Cyclones defused their power play on all 7 of their opportunities in Game 2 Sunday night in Fort Wayne. Linden, 2 minutes for goaltender interference at 11:23 on his first shift of the night. Komets scored on their first shot of the night, and they scored on 3 of their first 4 shots of the game. Now Kelly Hurd on right wing at center. He whistles it around the Cyclone backboard to the right side. Greenlaw's there. Greenlaw drove it down ice. Biggs racing after it. Oh, the Fort Wayne line. He's in a level shot. He scores! Don Biggs short-handed goal. 3-2 Fort Wayne. Biggs simply out-hustled the Fort Wayne defense after Jeff Greenlaw cleared the zone. He just turned on the jets and accelerated past the Fort Wayne flat-footed point men, and with a crisp backhand, he sharply whizzed it home. Biggs from Greenlaw at 11:45. Don Biggs has both of the Cyclones comeback goals in this opening period. Cyclones have shrunk the 3-0 deficit to 3-2. 3 of the game's goals shorthanded. Biggs has a breakaway again. Oh, the Fort Wayne line, he's in alone. He's pulled down this time by Lambert. There'll be a penalty shot. A penalty shot. A penalty shot to Don Biggs. Don Biggs was breaking away again, shorthanded behind Dan Lambert on the Fort Wayne left defense in a bid for another shorthanded goal. Biggs leads the league with 3 shorthanded goals. He is accounted for both of the Cyclones' goals here tonight. And the referee, Dennis LaRue, never hesitated a moment. He immediately indicated that there would be a penalty shot awarded to Don Biggs. Biggs and Lindbergh were the best 2 for the Cyclones on the showdown shootout this year. This occurring with still 1:08 in the Linden penalty. And 7:45 of the opening period. Don Biggs single-handedly has brought the Cyclones back from a 3-0 deficit on 2 goals in 3:15. Now Biggs is through center on the penalty shot. Biggs on the Fort Wayne line. He's in alone. He shoots and he hit the goal post. He rang it right off the post. Another break for Fort Wayne. Can you believe it? Can you believe the breaks this Fort Wayne team gets? Can you believe it? Don Biggs had him completely mastered, and he rang it off the post. Unreal and surreal how this Fort Wayne team gets every darn break. Don Biggs was in alone on the penalty shot, and he just raked it right off the crossbar. He had Sidorkewicz completely out of position. Fort Wayne still has power play time for 1:08. 3-2 they lead it. But Don Biggs singularly has brought the Cyclones back. 3 of the game's 5 goals have been short-handed. Biggs with a pair of goals from Nedved and Aikens on a power play at 8:30. Short-handed on a breakaway from Jeff Greenlaw at 11:45. And then Biggs, a mere 30 seconds later, failed. He rang one off the crossbar on a penalty shot. From the face-off, Fort Wayne is the power play. Dan Lambert at his own line on right wing at center, Lee Davidson. He rockets it off the Cyclone backboard to Karen right in front of the goal. On at Nedved. Yaroslav Nedved low in his own left circle. will whip it down ice. Lambert behind the goal. 46 seconds for the power play. Dan Lambert headmans in the middle at center of Max Mindendorf, who wheels into the Cyclone line. He dropped it. Left wing board for the trailing miss Messier. Messier left corner for Mindendorf. Back left point for Lambert. Lambert into the corner for Mindendorf. Mindendorf along the boards. Cross ice right point for Davidson. Center point for Lambert. Top of the right circle for Davidson. Center point for Lambert. Top of the right circle for Davidson. Davidson opposite circle for Messier. Off his stick to the corner. Leach leans on Messier. Puck over the blue line. Shahaki control for Leach. Leach at center for Hines. Hines over the Fort Wayne line with Shahaki. And Chris Shahaki is offside on right wing. No further play. Unreal and surreal. Cyclones are 2-on-1 shorthanded, but they're offside. Good grief. 6:44 remaining in the opening period. Still 7 seconds for the Jamie Linden penalty, but the Cyclones have been their most dangerous tonight while shorthanded. Two of the Komets, 3 goals shorthanded in the span of 22 seconds. Don Biggs has scored on a power play and shorthanded on a breakaway. He had another shorthanded breakaway, only to be hauled down by Lambert, who sent Biggs somersaulting, but Biggs rang one off the crossbar on the penalty shot. From the faceoff at center zone, Chris Armstrong on right wing, fired it in beyond the Fort Wayne goal. The penalty is over to Linden. Rounding the Fort Wayne net, Tretowicz on right wing in his own line for Hurd. Kelly Hurd in the middle at center for Dave Smith, who reaches the Cyclone line. Poke check by Kidd, but trailing left side. Richardson with a shot. Reddick the save. Puck to the corner. Left side for Boyce. Boyce left it there for Smith. Smith on left point for Richardson with a shot. Barry deflected that one over top of his own net to the left board for LeBeau. Patrick LeBeau to center. Over the Fort Wayne line for Barry. Dropped it left boards for Lawless. Lawless left circle. Shoots. Sidorkewicz to save with Barry flashing through the crease along with Patrick LeBeau. No further play. 6:06 left first period. Now at close quarters in front of the Fort Wayne crease. Of course, that agitating nuisance himself, Dave Smith, and the Cyclones' Patrick LeBeau. I'm not sure of Dave Smith's skills as a hockey player. What we are certain of are his other tactics and antics that at this stage in the series defy description. 6:06 for the opening period. 3-2 Fort Wayne. Cyclones have outshot them 9-8. Only one of the game's 5 goals, while both teams were at full and equal strength. Out by Fort Wayne's Colin Chin at 4:58. Cyclones have a short-handed goal and a power play goal, both from Biggs. Face-off right at Sidorkewicz, Fort Wayne goal. Dave Smith to oppose the Cyclones, Daniel Gauthier. Sticks come down, won by Gauthier. Try to kick it in front of the goal for a Leach. Knocked away by Boyce to the Cyclone line. Backing it up in front of the goal between the circles is Chris Armstrong. Goes rink wide right boards for Leach coming back. Leach up the boards at center for Daniel Gauthier. Now Gauthier pivots. Will pirouette inside his own line to skirt the check of Boyce. Left it on the right defense for Kidd. Ian Kidd wheels across on left wing at center. He'll fire into the Fort Wayne zone. Action is halted. Mark LaBelle bowled over Dave Smith at the Fort Wayne line on right wing, but I think in so doing, LaBelle set himself offside for the Cyclones. No further play. Break in the action, 5:38 left first period. Fort Wayne 3, Cyclones 2. This is Cyclones Turner Cup hockey. In Fort Wayne, they get so many breaks, you can't stand it after a while. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Cincinnati Gardens. 5:38 left first period. 3-2 Fort Wayne. They once led 3-0. Now Dallas Aikens backs it up between the circles in front of his own goal. Now Aikens leaves it there for Nedved. Yaroslav Nedved on left wing at center for Barry. Checked by Chin. Puck caroms the length of the ice. Reached beyond the goal by Tsyplakov. They'll negate icing. Now Vladimir Tsyplakov on left wing. Rink one on right wing at center for Purves. Crisscrossing with Komets. Purves over the Cyclone line with a left wing dish for Tsyplakov. Left at top of the circle for Purves. Halted by Nedved at center line. Barry exploding on the Fort Wayne line. Barry moving right in on goal. Centered it. Aikens shoots a great save by Sidorkewicz as Aikens poured right through. Puck behind the goal for Lambert. He drove it off the boards into the Cyclone zone. Erratic in the left circle, leave it there for Aikens, headbanding his own line for the bow, turned it over to Chin. Chin's pass at the Cyclone line, blocked by Nedved, who turned it over at center to Purves. Purves over the Cyclone line on right wing. Around Aikens, he's going right in and goal with a shot, he scores. John Purves, 4-2 Fort Wayne. And did John Purves ever unzip and undress two Cyclones defensemen, Dallas Aikens and Yaroslav Nedved. Oh my. Boy, oh boy. And Fort Wayne regains the 2-goal lead at 4-2. And that is John Purves' 6th goal in the playoffs. And his 3rd in this series. He leads the league in game-winning goals with 3. Purves unassisted at 15-19. 4 first-period goals. First period has been the worst period for the Cyclones all season long, and it hasn't changed in the playoffs. First period and third period have been the best for Fort Wayne all season long. That hasn't changed in the playoffs. From the faceoff, Richer behind his own goal. Richer directs it around the boards to an open wing. Malykhin pinches it from left point. Behind the goal for Boyce. Now Boyce centers for Messier, shoots and scores. Mitch Messier, 5-2 Fort Wayne. And the Komets have regained their original 3-goal lead. This is not the same Cyclones team that we saw eliminate Kalamazoo. Something has happened between the Kalamazoo series and the Fort Wayne series. 2 Fort Wayne goals in 27 seconds, and Mitch Messier has his 4th goal in this series. Messier from Boyce and Malykhin at 15:46. 2 goals in 27 seconds. And you harken back to Don Biggs ringing it off the crossbar with the penalty shot. Fort Wayne just plays the role of opportunists. They do it impeccably, and they really do get all the breaks. From the faceoff, Fort Wayne's own right boards Malykhin's clearing pass in front of his own goal for Lucyk. Up on left wing for Boyce. Ian Boyce at center zone. Wrapped it off the boards behind the Cyclone goal. 5-2 Fort Wayne, still in the first period. Now Chris Armstrong at his own line just ramped it off the boards to center, traveled 2 lines, Jeff Greenlaw offside. Let's take a break after that. 3:36 left first period. Fort Wayne 5, the Cyclones 2. This is Cyclones Turner Cup hockey. Something happened between series here, boy. Messier is making a living in that same spot. He has scored 3 of his 4 goals in the series in that exact same spot. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live at the Cincinnati Gardens. 3:34 left first period. 5-2 Fort Wayne. Now Dallas Aikens at his own line for Nedved. In the middle at center, Mark LaBelle wrapping one in behind the goal. Sidorkewicz comes out, swept it around the boards, past Nedved on right point to center. Aikens comes across. Dallas Aikens on right wing, sends the puck, skipping in behind the goal. On it there for Fort Wayne, Richardson. Richardson right boards for Hurd. Hurd's pass stolen by Leach. Right in front for LaBelle with a shot to the crease. Leach shoots, he scores! Jamie Leach, 5-3 Fort Wayne. LaBelle disrupted the Fort Wayne clearing pass. On the left side, fed Danielle Gauthier, who drove it to the crease. Jamie Leach at the left edge of the crease converts. Leach from Gauthier and LaBelle at 16:59. We've had 8 goals in the opening period, and it's 5-3 Fort Wayne. Now Lambert behind his own goal, cracked by Berry, but he delivered it right corner for McDonald. McDonald headmanning at his own line for Chin on right wing at center. Purves back for Chin, crossing the Cyclone line. Dishing left server, Tsyplakov with a shot. Reddick the save. Rebound to the left side of the goal for Chin. Left wing boards for Purves. Purves trying to center for Tsyplakov. Blocked in front by Eakins. Purves has it in left circle, shot. Right on, Reddick the save, he'll hold on. No further play. Boy, when that puck has been in the Cyclone zone in this first period, it has been a complete and total adventure because the Cyclones' coverage in their own zone in the first period has been negligible. Jamie Leach has his first goal and first point in the playoffs from Gauthier and LaBelle at 16:59. We've had 8 goals in this opening period, and it's 5-3 Fort Wayne. Now I believe we have referee Dennis LaRue has skated to the penalty box area. Some of the Fort Wayne players are waiting as well. I'm uncertain as to the reason why. We invite you to stay tuned. The president and general manager of the Cincinnati Cyclones, Mr. Doug Kirchhoffer, will be our special guest. That's coming up at our first intermission. I believe we have a Cyclones penalty coming up to Len Berry. It's a double minor.
4 minutes for butt ending at 17:30.
Len Berry received a double minor. 4 minutes for butt ending
4 minutes
at 17:35. Len Berry had 246 penalty minutes during the season. He has 44 in the playoffs. So Fort Wayne has a 4-minute power play with 2:25 remaining in the opening period and an excellent opportunity to reclaim their original 3-goal lead. They've left 3-0 and 5-2. Cyclones have narrowed the deficit to 3-2 and from 5-2 to 5-3. Don Biggs has a pair of goals, and once on a penalty shot he rang one off the crossbar. Fort Wayne's second power play of the night. They're 0 for 1 from the faceoff on the left board. Jeff Greenlaw's there, and Greenlaw near the corner fires it down ice. Tracked down behind the goal by Dan Lambert. Now Lambert at his own line, leads on right wing at center for Lee Davidson. Davidson fires it in behind the Cyclone goal. Reddick sets it up for Eakins. Eakins throws it to the line. Davidson turns it over to Biggs. Don Biggs drops up the right side at center of the Fort Wayne line. Right at Redford. Greenlaw at the crease behind him as Greenlaw was cracked down behind the goal by Lambert. Back comes Fort Wayne. Darin Smith clearing past Stolen center circle by Richer, who anticipates. And Stefan Richer snapped it right back in behind the Fort Wayne goal. 1:42 with the period, 3:17 with the power play, 5-3 Komets. Dan Lambert at his own line lugs it to center. Lambert on left wing. Drove it off the Cyclone backboards. Karam right corner for Darin Smith. Checked by Eakins. Eakins powered it up the board for Shahaki. Headmanning at center for Jamie Leach. Past him. Steered back to the Cyclone line by Davidson. Control behind the goal by Eakins. Dallas Eakins inadvertently launches one over the glass into the crowd inside the Cincinnati blue line below Austin to our right. No further play. 1:20 left first period. 5-3 Fort Wayne. 2:55 remaining in the 4-minute minor for butt ending to the league's leading scorer in the playoffs, Len Berry. Face-off will originate, circle left to Pokey Reddick in the Cyclone goal. Fort Wayne has now outscored their opposition in the first period in the playoffs, 19-10. They've outscored the Cyclones in the third period in this series, 5-1. Face-off left with Reddick, Cyclone goal. Biggs and Dave Smith on the face-off. Won by Biggs. Behind the goal, Nedved winds it around the right wing boards, the length of the ice. Tracked down behind the goal by Grant Richardson. He and Cullen Chin are a +5 of the playoffs, foremost on the Comet Club. Richardson at his own line on right wing at center for Kelly Hurd, who reaches the Cyclone line, swerving through the circle, centering it right through the crease of the blue line. Messier's shot from left point was wide with under a minute for the period. Rebound behind the goal. Another penalty coming up. Puck to the left wing boards. Corralled by Messier. Whistle sounds. I believe we have a Fort Wayne elbowing penalty coming up. Or is it a Cyclones penalty? It's another Cyclones penalty to Chris Shahaki for elbowing. Though the referee sounded the whistle and Mitch Messier cradled the puck along the boards inside the Cyclone line. Shahaki 2 minutes for elbowing in 1909. So the Cyclones' penchant for the penalty box may be their eventual undoing for the season. This has been one of the Cyclones' problems all season long. Their propensity for penalties. They are the third most penalized team in the playoffs, fourth most in the IHL. But many of the penalties that the Cyclones absorb are really not what you would call good penalties. Shahaki 2 minutes for elbowing in 1909. So Fort Wayne has a 2-man advantage for 2 minutes. Overall power play for 2:26. 51 seconds for period 1, and they lead at 5-3. Mitch Messier to oppose Don Biggs on the faceoff, won by Messier. On right point for Hurd. Right boards for Chim. Right point for Hurd. Working on Biggs. Kelly Hurd left point for Lambert. Lambert down low, style to go for Purves. Centered, blocked beautifully by Akins and swept down ice masterfully by Jeff Friedlaw. 32 seconds for the power play. Dan Lambert at his own line. He wheels and deals through center circle, crossing the Cyclone line, dishes right boards for Messier with 2 first period goals. Right in front for Chin with a shot muffled by Greenlaw, but contained left point on the ricochet by Lambert. Lambert loads the gun. Lambert instead low left circle for Chin. Center into the crease for Purvis. Swept away beautifully by Greenlaw. All the way to the Fort Wayne zone. 8 seconds for the power play. Lambert between the circles in front of his own goal. Leads in the middle at center for Cullen Chin, who shoots, and he fired it wide at the horn, signaling the close of the opening period from the Cincinnati Gardens. And in rather uncharacteristic playoff fashion, the two teams combined for 8, count them, 8 first period goals. 5 by Fort Wayne, 3 by the Cyclones. Fort Wayne outshot the Cyclones 13-12 in the opening period. The Komets will have a 2-man advantage for the first minute 9 of second period action, which has been the Komets' worst period all season long, but has been the Cyclones' best period all season long. Don Biggs with 2 short-handed goals for the Cyclones. Mitch Messier has 2 goals for Fort Wayne, one of them short-handed, as the Komets have vaulted into the 2-goal lead. 1 period of play complete. It's the Fort Wayne Komets 5, the Cincinnati Cyclones 3. We'll take a 2-minute break. This is Cyclones Turner Cup Hockey.
All right, hockey fans, our good friends at Snapple bring us our first period intermission. Snapple, made for the best stuff in the world, and we've selected 3 contestants to play with us here tonight. Mark Buckmeyer, Allison Blanson-Game, and Britton Jones from Australia. All right, Mark Buckmeyer, our first contestant. Jump on up there here in the Snapple slap shot shootout. 1 shot will eliminate folks as they keep going. Mark, that's not going to make it. All right, Allison Blanson-Game, everybody. All right, Allison. Britton Jones, our third contestant, for some great prizes from our good friends at Snapple Natural Beverages. Brent, oh no, move them back. I think that was too easy. That was too easy. Move them back. All right, Mark. That's got a chance. Ooh. All right, Allison. No. All set, Rod. Wow. All right, Brent. Move them up. Move them up. What do you say? We move them up? We got to have a winner. All right, move them back up. Okay, Mark. Wow. That's a wide open net.
Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Cincinnati Gardens in our first intermission, where it's Fort Wayne 5, the Cyclones 3. The game refereed by Dennis LaRue, the linesmen Kevin Mallon and Dan Sass. Must-win mandate confronting the Cyclones tonight, who trail this series 2-0. In the opening period at 4:58 on their initial shot on goal, Colin Chin converted in front of the goal crease on a John Purves centering pass that emanated from the left corner. Chin from Purves and Tsyplakov at 4:58. That staked Fort Wayne to a 1-0 lead, triggering their 5-goal first period assault. Then at 7:41, Fort Wayne struck with their first of 2 short-handed goals in 22 seconds. They led the IHL in short-handed goal artistry with 22, and 4 of those against the Cyclones. It was David Tretowicz on a 2-on-1, connecting from Davidson and Messier after Lee Davidson had undressed Ian Kidd of the puck at the blue line on left point at the Fort Wayne line. Tretowicz, who had only 3 goals all season long, his first of the playoffs from Davidson and Mitch Messier, short-handed at 7:41. It was 2-0 Fort Wayne. 22 seconds later was Davidson and Messier this time, breaking out of the pack on a 2-on-1 fast break, still short-handed. It was Messier who converted his 5th in the playoffs from Davidson at 8:03. 2 short-handed Fort Wayne goals in 22 seconds, catapulting them into a 3-0 lead. But at 8:24, Dan Lambert was ticketed for tripping. And 6 seconds later from the ensuing faceoff, the Cyclones power play converted for the 3rd time in this series and the 11th time in the playoffs. Dallas Aikens from left point, fed across right point for Yaroslav Neved, who poured into the circle. He really rifled the shot, and Don Biggs with a deft touch deflected it home. Biggs 4th in the playoffs, his first in the series from Neved and Aikens on the power play at 8:30. The 2 teams had collaborated for 3 goals in the span of 49 seconds. Fort Wayne maintained a 2-goal bulge at 3-1. But 3:15 later and 22 seconds after the Cyclones, Jamie Linden on his first shift of the night was chased for a 2-minute minor for goaltender interference. Jeff Greenlaw along the right boards inside his own line drove the puck the length of the ice. Don Biggs found a seam in Fort Wayne's flat-footed defense, and he just burst behind the defense in pursuit of the puck. He seized it at the Fort Wayne line and soloed in on the breakaway in the straightaway, and with a backhander, he really knifed it right through Sidorkewicz. It was Biggs' 2nd goal of the period. He had 7 2-goal games during the regular season and 1 thus far in the playoffs. This is his 2nd. Biggs' 5th goal in the playoffs. And for Don Biggs, a league-high 3rd short-handed from Greenlaw at 11:35. The Cyclones trailed 3-2. Then on the same power play, Don Biggs had another breakaway. Short-handed for the Cyclones. This time he was dragged down from behind by Lambert. A penalty shot was awarded. Don Biggs on the penalty shot completely victimized the goaltender Sidorkewicz and rang it off the crossbar, however. And then at that juncture, the penalty and the momentum returned to Fort Wayne. 3 minutes after the missed penalty shot, John Purves converted unassisted as he unzipped and undressed Dallas Aikens and Yaroslav Neved on the Cyclone defense. He sliced right through behind him, right in on goal, and he dribbled it behind behind Reddick. Purves 6th in the playoffs, his 3rd in the series unassisted at 15:19, and 27 seconds after that, Ian Boyce behind the Cyclone goal slipped one in front of the crease. Mitch Messier knocked it home, his 2nd of the period, his 6th in the playoffs, and 4 have come in this series. Mitch Messier now has 5 goals in a 4-game playoff goal-scoring streak. That culminated Fort Wayne's 5-goal first period uprising, but 1:13 later, the Cyclones did offer another rejoinder. Mark LaBelle interrupted a Fort Wayne clearing past left boards, ladled into the left circle to Daniel Gauthier, who drove it to the crease where Jamie Leach converted. Leach's first goal on his first point in the playoffs. Gauthier and LaBelle assisting at 16:59. Cyclones trail by a pair after 20 minutes. 5-3. They were outshot by Fort Wayne 13-12. 6 penalties in the period, all minors. 4 to the Cyclones for 8 minutes, 2 to Fort Wayne for 4 minutes. Cyclones 1 for 2 on the power play. Komets 0 for 2. Fort Wayne has a 2-man advantage for a minute and 9 seconds. 1 second period action commences. 1 period of play complete. Fort Wayne 5, the Cyclones 3. Stay tuned. The president and general manager of the Cyclones, Doug Kirchhoffer, is up next. This is Cyclones Turner Cup Hockey. my voice mic down a little bit? Okay. All right, I got you. Okay. All set? Thanks, Dan. Okay, bye-bye. Wish we had more time. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Cincinnati Gardens. First intermission, Fort Wayne 5, the Cyclones 3, and it's always a pleasure to have with us the president and general manager of the Cincinnati Cyclones Hockey Club, Mr. Doug Kirchhofer. And Doug, welcome as always. And this series is taking on a rather interesting dimension.
This has been a wild one so far tonight, Terry. I'll tell you what. It's hard to imagine that they played a 2-1 hockey game Sunday evening in Fort Wayne. Come out here tonight in the first period, we had 8 goals scored. I mean, it's one of those games where maybe the last team to get a shot's going to win the game.
Doug, let's talk about another very successful season of Cyclones hockey, and certainly the transition has been completed, and the rapid improvement of the franchise in the IHL from last season to this season is truly astounding.
Well, you know, it's a little early to look back over this past season, but yet we're at a point where we need to start doing that. And I think that as we review the results of the past regular season at this point, we obviously have to be very happy with the progress that this team has made.
Doug, the team is, it's been an interesting year. There's been a coaching change, and the team has responded well to the coaching change. How do you view it from your perspective?
Well, it's been a very interesting year, a very challenging year, a very different year than last year. I think that's maybe the most insightful thing that I can say about it. Last year we struggled with a talent level of our club that maybe wasn't quite up to the standards of the league. This year we have a different situation where we have a tremendous amount of talent on this team. And the challenge is to coordinate and mesh that talent into a winning team.
You mentioned the challenges. It's been interesting to see the affiliation with the Panthers. At this state with the Cyclones, are you reasonably satisfied with the progress, or are you in a situation where you feel you never want to be satisfied? You always want to make continued progress with the franchise, both on and off the ice.
Well, again, I think looking back on the first year of our relationship with Florida, it's been a very good one, and I think all the signs are there that indicate to me that we're going to have a good, strong, successful, long-term relationship. Bill Torrey, Bob Clark, and all the people in the Florida Panther organization, really their reputations preceded them, and they certainly lived up to those reputations as being very, very excellent hockey people.
What a lot of people are probably unaware of, and it's not really visible to them, is the rapid growth of the Cyclones front office department as well. I mean, the Cyclones staff has grown in leaps and bounds in a short period of time.
Well, one of our real primary objectives, Terry, this year was to increase the size of our front office staff in order to be able to provide better service to our fans, to our sponsors. They certainly have a right to expect a high degree of professionalism, and we needed to put the people in place, not only in terms of experience, but also in terms of numbers, to provide that service that they so certainly deserve.
What are some of the challenges that lie ahead in the immediate future for this franchise, Doug?
Well, I think after you have a successful year, as we've just had, the biggest challenge is always what do you do for an encore. Obviously, the playoffs are not over yet. We're very happy to be in the playoffs this year. It was surprising how much you don't realize how much you miss it until you are not in the playoffs for a year and then get a chance to get back in. It's been really an exciting time for our team and also for our entire organization. As I said, I think that the big challenge is going to be to continue to improve upon the base that we've established.
How about the future of the league itself? This league is growing almost in a rampant fashion. Is there concern with the governors and you in particularly that it's growing too fast, or you think this growth is ideal at this particular juncture?
Well, I think you have to look at a situation like we're in with the rapid growth of the IHL. You have to say there's reason to be concerned, but if you're aware of the potential problems, then I think that you're able to deal with them. I think the bigger issue is that there's such a tremendous opportunity at this point in time for professional hockey. You've seen it over the last 5 years just explode. The window of opportunity is only going to stay open for so long, and not only do the Cincinnati Cyclones need to capitalize on it, but also the International Hockey League.
Doug, I wish we had more time, but they're about set for the second period. We'll have to bring you back again for Chapter 2.
I'll be glad to do it. I'm looking forward to a whiz-bang second period.
All right, thanks, Doug.
You bet.
Doug Kirchhoff, always a pleasure to have him with us, the president and general manager of the Cyclones. We just wish we had more time because they're ready to play for second period action. It's Fort Wayne 5, the Cyclones 3. This is Cyclones Turtle Cup hockey. You want to make a note there at the top. Dan, we're going to miss that last 1 minute spot leading into the second period. We're going to have to try to make it up somewhere along the line if you're listening, because they're set to go right now. They shortened the intermissions for the playoffs, and I think we had to even abbreviate the interview with Doug, which I didn't want to do. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live at the Cincinnati Gardens. We're all set for second period action, and the Cyclones are short-handed by a minute 9 by 2 men, and they trail by 2, 5-3. Covington at center of the Cyclone line for Purves. He directs it right side for Davidson. Right in front for Tsyplakov with a shot, and Ray LeBlanc in goal. To open the period, makes a big save. Puck to the left side of the goal. Fired down ice by Alice Aikens. Pokey Reddick is not even on the Cyclones bench. Ray LeBlanc in goal. Now Fort Wayne is away. Covington at his own line, motors through center. Crossing the Cyclone line. Swings wide to the right board. Slams on the brakes. Now Chid right point for Davidson. On the dot, right circle for Chin. Back center point with Lee Davidson. In the left circle for Lambert. Top of the slot for Davidson. Now Lee Davidson loads the gun. Low right circle for Chin. Top of the slot for Davidson. Left circle for Lambert. Top of the slot for Davidson. Right in front for Tsyplakov, and he fired it wide as Tsyplakov was sent tumbling into the net by Biggs. Contained right point, though, by Davidson. Left point for Lambert. Right point for Davidson. Now Davidson. Down low right circle for Chin. Top of the slot for Davidson with a shot over top of the net. Rebound behind the goal. Biggs was spilled by Purves. First penalty to Shahaki is over. Puck along the boards. And from the left side, it's swept down ice by Chris Shahaki. 16 seconds for the Len Berry penalty. This could give the Cyclones a real lift if they can kill it off. Back comes Fort Wayne Mindendorf at center of the Cyclone line. Drifts it diagonally left corner for Darin Smith. Rolling it in front. Shahaki is there leaving for Leach. Leach fires it down ice. Berry's 4 minutes of penalties are over. And the Cyclones penalty killing unit was brilliant. Now Fort Wayne controls at its own line. Tretowicz bodied by Gauthier, seized by Berry. Berry over the Fort Wayne line. Dropped it for Gauthier. Right in front for Leach with a shot. Great save, Sidorkewicz. Rebound. Berry's turnaround shot robbed by Sidorkewicz. Berry left corner. Berry left boards. Toppled by Lambert. Back comes Fort Wayne Lambert at center for Mindendorf. At the Cyclone line for Darin Smith. Knocked down by Richer. Richer at center for Berry over the Fort Wayne line. Berry leaves it for Leach. Leach right in front for Gauthier with a shot. Sidorkewicz to save. Rebound right in front of the goal. Gauthier falls. Dug out right corner by Barry. Now Len Barry along the boards. Barry into the corner for Richer. Richer centers it right through the crease, all the way through to the Fort Wayne right boards, where Messier just shillelaghs at the length of the ice for temporary relief. Reach behind the goal by Daniel Gauthier. Icing the call against Fort Wayne, but the Cyclones have come alive here early in the second period. After all, it's been their best period all season long. They outscore the opponents by 50 goals during the regular season. And in the playoffs, they've outscored the opponents 8 goals to 5. Boy, the Cyclones were short 2 men for 2 minutes. And their penalty killing unit absolutely bedazzling. Fort Wayne's number 1 ranked power play has now been disarmed on a grand total of 11 straight power play efforts. Face-up will originate right as Sidorkewicz Fort Wayne goal. The Cyclones effected a goaltending change at the inception of the second period. Ray LeBlanc, who actually had a superior record to Pokey Reddick against Fort Wayne this year, has been inserted in goal. This is LeBlanc's 5th appearance in the playoffs, and though he is winless in 2 decisions, he has an excellent goals against average of 2.99 and a save percentage of .887. Reddick did not even return to the Cyclones bench, so perhaps his back may still be bothering him. The faceoff will originate deep in Fort Wayne territory. Circle right of Peter Sidorkewicz. It's a 5-3 Fort Wayne lead. Mitch Messier has scored twice, one of them shorthanded. David Tretowicz has a shorthanded goal. Cullen Chin, John Purves caging singletons for the Komets. From the faceoff, Shahaki powered his way to the side of the goal, upended by Malykhin. Dug out left corner by Lawless. Directs it around the backboards, opposite side blue line. Kidd couldn't hold it in. Puck into the Cyclone zone. Controlled by Armstrong up the boards at his own line for Shahaki. Shahaki jammed by Boyce, who squeezed him. Puck rolls to the Cyclone right corner, where Armstrong pins Dave Smith. Trying to pry it loose is Boyce, jammed by Biggs. They tangle trucklingly along the boards. Finally collected by Chris Shahaki. Shahaki skies at the length of the ice. Reach beyond the goal by Kerry Lucyk. Icing the call against the Cyclones in Chris Shahaki. No further play. 16:54 remaining for second period action, and it's 5-3 Fort Wayne. They have led throughout. They surged into a 3-0 lead by 8:24 the opening period on a pair of shorthanded goals, 22 seconds apart by David Tretowicz and Mitch Messier, after Cullen Chin on Fort Wayne's initial shot on goal had staked the visitors to a 1-0 lead at 4:58 of the stanza. But then Don Biggs reposted with a power play goal at 8:30, a shorthanded breakaway goal at 11:45, before Biggs failed on a penalty shot 30 seconds later at 12:15, after another shorthanded breakaway thrust was thwarted by the trip of Dan Lambert from behind, awarding Biggs a penalty shot that saw Don Biggs ring it right off the crossbar. Fort Wayne then recovered and triggered a pair of goals in 27 seconds by Purves and Mitch Messier, the latter's second of the period, before Jamie Leach responded 1:13 after Messier had scored Fort Wayne's 5th goal of the period. And that, of course, has brought us to our current state, 5-3 Fort Wayne. From the faceoff, Dave Smith at center, wheels in over the Cyclone line. Top of the right circle, stripped naked by Lavelle. Lavelle at center with Leach. Rick running right wing for Gauthier at the Fort Wayne line behind him. Back come the Komets. Tsyplakov at his own line in the middle at center for Dave Smith. Wrapped it in on goal. LeBlanc with an extended stick. Steers left board for Armstrong. Chris Armstrong rolls it to the goaltender Sidorkewicz. He'll leave low right circle for McDonald. Wrapped it off the board to an open wing. Puck skids into the Cyclone zone. Tracked down along the right side by Gord Hines. Hines wrapped it off the boards to center. At center circle, Purves sends Tsyplakov on the Cyclone line for Fort Wayne. Tsyplakov top of the left circle, fans out to the board, shooting right on, kicked up on the block. Rebound right corner of Richer. Stephane Richer scaled it off the glass on the right side into the crowd right below us in the neutral zone. No further play. 15:56 remaining in the second period, and it's 5-3 Fort Wayne. This is the lone game of the IHL tonight. Last night in San Diego, the Midwest Division champion Atlanta Knights remained undefeated in the playoffs as they recorded their 7th consecutive victory and surged into an insurmountable 3-game-to-none lead over San Diego. In San Diego last night, the Knights over the Gulls 5-2. Atlanta swept through Milwaukee in 4 straight. They're in the process of doing the same. That series resumes tomorrow night in San Diego with Atlanta on top 3 games to none, 1 victory away for their first ever berth in the Turner Cup Finals. Face-off inside the arc of the circle, right on the block, Cyclone goal. Won by the Cyclones. Barry as he tipped over chin but contained left point by Lambert. Directs across ice right board for Tsyplakov. Pinned by Hines. He spun off the Hines check. Slipped it in behind the goal for Purves. Checked by the intimidating presence of Greenlaw, who forearm chin lost the wheel on the Cyclone right boards, and back come the Cyclones. Patrick LeBeau at center with Len Barry. Barry reaching the Fort Wayne line. Checked down the defense by Purves. Breakaway pass for Tsyplakov at center, traveling 2 lines. Fort Wayne's breakaway pass on the execution this time. Traveled 2 lines on the offside, no further play. 15:29 remaining middle period. 5-3 Fort Wayne. Face-off will originate at the origin of that ill-fated Fort Wayne breakaway pass, barely inside their blue line. Below us on the Cyclone right wing, right in front of the Cincinnati bench. Ray LeBlanc inserted in goal at the inception of this second period after Pokey Reddick was perforated 5 times in that first period by his former teammates. Len Barry in the face of opposing Fort Wayne's Lee Davidson. Won by Davidson at his own line. Cushions one at center. Ian Boyce reaching the Cyclone line. Surrounded by Nedved and Greenlaw. Rode him off. Puck back to center zone. On right wing, Kerry Lucyk. Rockets it in behind the Cyclone goal. Barricaded by LeBlanc for Nedved. Leading on left wing. The pass to the blue line blocked by Lucyk. Lucyk's point shot right in front. Messier was checked before he could convert by Nedved. Yaroslav Nedved drove it to center, where Kerry Lucyk on right wing sends it carrying around the Cyclone backboard to the right side. Yaroslav Nedved is there, and Nedved will fire at the length of the ice. Reached behind the goal by Lucyk with Patrick LeBeau in hot pursuit. Icing the call against Nedved and the Cyclones. No further play. 14:54 remaining in the middle period. And it's 5-3 Fort Wayne. Face-off will originate circle right of Ray LeBlanc as he makes his 3rd appearance in as many games in this series against the Komets. Fort Wayne finished 4th. They were the last qualifying team in the Eastern Conference standings. But the Komets continue that remarkable playoff magic that they possess. All ready to go. Biggs and Dave Smith on the face-off. Sticks come down. Won by Biggs. Right corner for Ian Kidd. Chased him behind the goal by Kelly Hurd. Kidd around the left wing boards into the line for Lawless. Wiggled off his stick outside the line to center. Collected by Shahaki. Whistle sounds. Uncertain why. I think it was a hand pass. A hand pass by the Cyclones. Faceoff will be inside their blue line across the way from us on their left wing. 14:45 left, middle period. 5-3 Fort Wayne. Don Biggs has a pair of goals for the Cyclones, including his league high 3rd shorthanded. His first goal was on a power play. Cyclones with their 11th power play goal in the playoffs. That ties them with Atlanta and Fort Wayne for the top total in the league in the playoffs. From the faceoff outside the Cyclone line, Grant Richardson on the left side, colliding with Shahaki as he drove it behind the goal. Armstrong is there, ladling right corner for Kidd coming back. Kidd's clearing pass, halted top of the slot by Hurd. Hurd tried to backhand one through in front for Darin Smith, encumbered by Kidd, but contained right point by Tretowicz. The Tretowicz shot deflected by Lawless into the Cyclone right corner. On it is Shahaki. Now Chris Shockey leads on left wing at center for Paul Lawless. Lawless for Biggs. Biggs springs into the Fort Wayne line, pulls up top of the left circle. Right circle for Shockey. Shooting deflected behind the goal by Hurd. Dug out behind the goal by Lawless. Lawless pulled in front. He's pulled down. There's going to be a Fort Wayne penalty coming up as the Cyclones, Don Biggs or Chris Armstrong was really sent somersaulting in front of the Fort Wayne crease by a Darin Smith body belt. There'll be a Fort Wayne penalty coming up at 5:56. Komets penalty box door swings open, and it will await the arrival of Grant Richardson. Richardson for Fort Wayne at 5:56. This will be the Cyclones' 3rd power play of the night. They're 1 for 2. Don Biggs choreographed the power play goal. Richardson pulled down Paul Lawless. Lawless had bolted in behind the Fort Wayne goal and then stepped right in front. And just as he was set, to lash the backhand bid. He was hauled out. Richardson, 2 minutes for holding at 5:56. Faceoff will brew and ensue. Circle right of Peter Sidorkewicz in the Fort Wayne goal. Then Barry to oppose Cullen Chin. All ready to go. One by Barry. Kangaroos to center point for Hines. Turned it over to Chin. Cullen Chin at center with the Cyclone line left wing for Purves. Crisscrossing with Chin left to left circle for Chin. Try to center one in front. Blocked by Hines. Fort Wayne already has 2 short and it goes tonight. Patrick LeBeau at his own line. In the middle at center down Biggs. He dashes into the Fort Wayne line. Dishes left board for Barry. Barry poked it into the corner for Biggs. Biggs back on the board for Barry. Barry left point for Richer. Left board for Len Barry. Now Barry at the edge of the circle. Goes back left point for Richer. Right circle for Hines. Right in front for Barry. Barry had to jump over his stick. He had a trampoline puck to contend with. Puck behind the goal. Barry dug it out. Barry centered it. Richer left circle. Edge of the circle for Biggs. Center point for Richer. Right circle for Gord Hines. Center point for Richer with a shot. He scores! Len Barry deflects it. Power play goal. 5-4 Fort Wayne. Len Barry on the deflection. He was rooted in front of the left hash mark when Stefan Richer pulled the trigger from center point. They'll credit the goal to Richer, but we'll see if they change it to Len Barry. Richer from Hines and Biggs. That's Richer second in the playoffs, both on power plays. Cyclones are 2 for 3 on the power play tonight. Don Biggs has 3 points tonight on 2 goals and an assist. From the faceoff, puck skips into the Fort Wayne zone. Controlled on the left, defense by Lambert. Roll it to center. Chris Armstrong is there. Armstrong for Gauthier. Gauthier checks into the Fort Wayne line. He tried to wheel right in front. Poke check by Lambert. Contain at the line though. Komets will control. Messier just wrapped it to the Cyclone zone. Covering up on the left defense. In the circle is Armstrong. Chris Armstrong at center for Jamie Leach. He wheels into the Fort Wayne line and a very late whistle on the offside. Good grief. Man, oh man. I'll tell you, the linesmen are taking a nap tonight. Cyclones were offside at the Fort Wayne line. That was a phantom offside. Man, that was an abomination. Stefan Richer is credited with the goal. We'll see if they alter that. Len Barry was rooted at the left hash mark when Richer fired from center point. And we'll see if that goal is altered. The shot obviously changed direction. From the faceoff at center zone. Controlled by Don Biggs with 3 points tonight. He whizzes a backhand behind the goal. On it is Richardson. Richardson on the right board for Tretowicz. His clearing pass knocked down at the point by Lawless, but it skips to center. Corralled there by Shahaki on right wing. Swept it around the backboard. Left corner. Biggs is there first. Big sharp angle. Shot right on. Sidorkewicz to save. Lawless traces the rebound left boards. Lawless centers. Blocked in front by Dave Smith and wrapped it off the board to the Cyclone zone. On it, Dallas Aikens. Aikens inadvertently sent it soaring into the Komets bench. No further play. Break in the action. 11:54 left, second period. The Cyclones are creeping up again. Second time they shaved the deficit to a singleton. Fort Wayne 5, Cyclones 4. This is Cyclones Turner Cup hockey. Boy. Back to the play. Richer right wing at center. Drove it in the Fort Wayne zone. Charging in at left corner. Barry tried to center with a trailing on the blow. Blocked by Chin. Cullen on right wing at center. Chin gains the Cyclone line. Drove it in behind the goal. LeBlanc will blockade for Richer. Richer up on the left wing in his own line for Hines. Cyclones away. Gord Hines from center. Drifts it diagonally to the right corner. Barry is there. Slipped it in behind the goal. Blocked by Lambert. Lambert headman's on the right wing in his own line for Purves. At center for Vladimir Tsyplakov. He speeds into the Cyclone line. Skated off by Richer. Puck to the backboards. Dug out by Hines. Swept it to the line. Contained right point by Lucyk. The Lucyk shot knocked down in front by Richer. Rebound right circle for Purves. Behind the goal for Chin. Now Chin centered right in front. Tsyplakov shot. Kicked into the crowd by LeBlanc. In Rayfield-like fashion. No further play. Big save by Ray LeBlanc as Vladimir Tsyplakov escaped notice in front of the Cyclones goal in their defense. And he snapped the shot that was labeled for the short side. And Ray LeBlanc with the right pad flexed it and sent that puck flying over the glass into the crowd. 10:59 remaining in the middle period. 5-4 Fort Wayne. Cyclones have never led. They have trailed 3-0. They have trailed 5-2. Each time trailing by a trio, they have rallied to reduce the deficit, dwindle it, diminish it to a scant singleton. From the faceoff at the Cyclone line. Kidd up the boards at center for Daniel Gauthier. Over the Fort Wayne line. Right in front of the bell with a shot. And Sidorkewicz dove out in the crease and smothered that one. No further play. They victimized Igor Malykhin, who committed himself at the Cyclone line on the left point. 10:47 for the middle period. It's Fort Wayne 5, the Cyclones 4. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is Cincinnati Cyclones Turner Cup Hockey. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Cincinnati Gardens. From the faceoff, the puck rolls into the Cyclone zone. Chris Armstrong chased him behind the goal by Davidson. Armstrong sheds his check with a lead on left wing in his own line for Daniel Gauthier, who takes off in flight through center. Gauthier, the Fort Wayne line. Butnook's on the right board, left it there for Kidd. Screen shot, that was wide. Rebound on the Fort Wayne right board for Messier. Mitch Messier motoring through center. Over the Cyclone line, working on Armstrong, who waltzed to the backboard with a Chris Armstrong crunch. Corralled left side of the goal by Gauthier. Off the boards at center with Barry. Knocked down with a stick raised above the shoulder by the back checking Lee Davidson of the neutral zone. Komets are called for that one. No further play. 10-12 left middle period. Break in the action. Fort Wayne 5, Cyclones 4. This is Cyclones Turner Cup Hockey. Back to the play behind the Fort Wayne goal. Richardson drove it to the line. Nedved right point fired. Sidorkewicz to save with Shahaki and Lawless converging at the crease. Puck in the Fort Wayne left corner. Dave Smith will just sail it into the Cyclone zone. Tracked down behind the goal by Nedved. Now Nedved rounds the net. Nedved leads at his own line for Lawless. Checked by Richardson. Sees right side by Darin Smith. Backhanding behind the goal for Dave Smith. Jolted by Akins. Controlled left side of the goal by Nedved. Cyclones break out. Nedved at center it on Biggs. Biggs sends Shahaki chasing after it behind the Fort Wayne goal. But there first was Tretowicz. He was forearmed by Biggs. Dug out right corner by Shahaki. Behind the goal for Biggs. Centering it. Nedved shoots. Sidorkewicz will say rebound right in front. Oh, Nedved shot another save by Sidorkewicz. Puck squirms to left point. Akins side of the goal for Lawless. Right in front for Biggs. Knocked in the corner by Dave Smith. Dug out left wing boards by Shahaki. Left circle for Lawless. Top of the circle for Biggs with a shot. Deflected over the glass into the crowd by Dave Smith, who slashes Biggs after the whistle. No further play. And that Dave Smith gets away with so much on the ice. Always hacking, always whacking, always cracking, and usually after the whistle, and usually he doesn't receive a penalty. 9 minutes remaining in the middle period. The Cyclones have completely dominated this stanza. They've outshot Fort Wayne 7-2, but they still trail by a single at 5-4. The face-off will originate rim of the circle, right of Sidorkewicz in the Fort Wayne goal. Don Biggs has 2 goals and an assist tonight for the Cyclones. He has a power play goal, a short-handed goal, and a power play assist. 3 of the Cyclones' 4 goals, the product of their specialty teams. They're 2 for 3 on the power play tonight, and Biggs has the short-handed breakaway goal. Glenberry and Cumberland on the face-off. Sticks come down. One by Chin. Right boards Purves. Banked it off those boards to center. Hines on it. Gord Hines on the left wing. Shoots right on. Stick saves Sidorkewicz. That one nearly handcuffed him. Control behind the goal by Messier. Turned it over in the circle to LeBeau. Behind the goal for Barry. Barry centered it. Riche fired it right through the open side of the crease. Puck caromed up the left corner boards of the Cyclone zone. Control by Gord Hines at his own line. Hines at center for Barry. He eludes him the length of the ice to negate icing. Tracked down behind the goal by Kevin McDonald. Now McDonald just fired it off the right wing boards, the length of the ice. Tsyplakov is behind the defense. That will negate icing, forcing LeBlanc to control it, hiding it away from him behind the goal for Riche at the boards at his own line for Greenlaw. Greenlaw at the boards at center of the bow. It traveled 2 lines. Cyclones guilty of the 2-line offside pass in the neutral zone. No further play. 8:15 remaining, middle period, and it's 5-4 Fort Wayne. This is a must-win for the Cyclones tonight. Otherwise, they would fall behind 3-0 with Game 4 here on Friday night. If the 5th game is necessary, it'll be Saturday night. And all 3 games this week, 7:30, here at the Cincinnati Gardens. The Cyclones have won 7 of the last 8 games at home, and they have really dissembled their opponents in that span, 44 goals to 20. Face-up will be barely inside the Cyclone line, right below us on their right wing. Gauthier and Davidson, one by Danielle Gauthier. Kidd goes circle to circle on the left defense for Armstrong. Armstrong just steers to center as he was converged on by Messier and Davidson. Control by Lucyk. Rinkwad to the left wing at center of Messier. Halted by Kidd. Kidd over the line for Gauthier. Gauthier was upended on the defense by Malykhin. Back comes Fort Wayne. Lee Davidson through center. Over the Cyclone line, a right wing dish for Boyce. Boyce in the circle. Thumped by Armstrong. Controlled on the Cyclone right corner by Kidd. Kidd just drove it off the boards to center zone. Gary Lucyk races after it. The linesman fell at the Cyclone line. Kevin Malykhin. Lucyk at his own line. Sends it into Cyclone territory. Collected in front of the goal by Kidd. Leading on right wing at center for Danielle Gauthier. Gauthier at the Fort Wayne line for Leach on the right boards. He didn't expect him. Back comes Fort Wayne. Malykhin at center for Purves. Breaking away the Cyclone line. Purves is in with a shot. He scores. John Purves, yet another Fort Wayne breakaway goal. And the Komets lead 6-4. They've been doing it all series long. Those breakaways behind the Cyclone defense. John Purves has his second 2-goal game in the series. And Fort Wayne has withstood the Cyclones' second period assault and restored their 2-goal lead. Purves 7th in the playoffs, his second tonight and his 4th in this series. Purves from Malykhin on the breakaway pass at 12:35. That's 2 assists for Igor Malykhin tonight. Purves has his second 3-point game in the series. 2 goals and an assist. 6-4 Fort Wayne. Boy, the breakaway goals that they have registered in this series. From the faceoff, Chris Shockey at his own line, motors through center. He sails it in behind the Fort Wayne goal. Karen for Sidorkewicz himself. He just drove it off the boards to the Cyclone zone. Backing it up in Cincinnati territory is Dallas Aikens. Aikens leaves on the right side for Biggs. Biggs now left it on the defense for Nedved. Up the boards at center for Shahaki. He was entangled there by Tsyplakov. Biggs pried it loose. Biggs really slammed down Lambert at the Fort Wayne line as he powered it into the Komet zone. From there, the Komets, Kevin McDonald fires at the length of the ice. Reached beyond the goal by Nedved. Icing the call against Fort Wayne. Break in the action. 6:37 left, second period. Fort Wayne 6, Cyclones 4. This is Cyclones Turner Cup hockey. Yeah, that's fine. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live with the Cincinnati Garden. 6:37 left, middle period. 6-4 Fort Wayne. LeBeau won the faceoff on Boyce. Right point for Richer. Richer scampers into the corner. He barges in behind the goal. Sanity blocked in the crease by Davidson. Puck behind the goal. They jostle for it there. Dug out by LeBeau. Hat-trick of the ball at the backboards. Squeezed by Davidson. They tangle truckling. LeBeau grabbed by Davidson, but LeBeau brought it in front. He shoots, he scores! Patrick LeBeau! 6-5 Fort Wayne. A delayed penalty coming to Lee Davidson, who rodeoed Patrick LeBeau, hog tying him behind the Fort Wayne goal. But Patrick LeBeau was undaunted. He was untrammeled. He somehow shoved the check, brought the puck right in front of the goal, and slammed it home. Patrick LeBeau's third goal in as many games in this series from Barrie at 13:43. Now Gord Hines is wheeling right in front of the backhander, just wide. Rebound behind the goal. Leach really shouldered the Fort Wayne player. Lucyk to the ice. Kerry Lucyk lands on top of the puck. Mark LaBelle creating a 2-bolt in the Fort Wayne crease for the Cyclones. That Cyclones goal 108 after John Purves had collected his second goal of the night on another Fort Wayne breakaway. Patrick LeBeau has his third goal in the playoffs, and all three have come in this series. Glenn Barrie, the single assist. The latter is the league's leading scorer in the playoffs at 13:43. And for the third time tonight, the Cyclones have diminished the deficit to a scant singleton. They have been unable, though, to achieve the equalizer. 6:01 remaining middle period. 6-5 Fort Wayne. Daniel Gauthier to oppose Fort Wayne's. Dave Smith on the faceoff. All ready to go. Sticks come down, one by Gauthier, top of the circle. Leach! Oh, he fired that one just wide. Puck along the left board for Darin Smith. He'll backhand into Cyclone territory. Hurrying after with urgency, right boards is Nedved. Rink wanted left wing at center, Mark LaBelle. He charges into the Fort Wayne line, feeding Leach right corner. Leach center to the crease. Oh, Gauthier was crashed into the crease. Net is dislodged. Whistle sounds. Penalty coming up. Time 14:18. Daniel Gauthier crashed the crease with the Fort Wayne player. I believe it's Kerry Lucyk. The Cyclones were claiming the puck had entered the cage before it was dislodged from the moorings. But the referee, Dennis LaRue, has annulled what would have been a Cyclones game-tying goal. This occurring with 5:42 remaining in the middle period, and it's 6-5 Fort Wayne. The injured Fort Wayne player is Kerry Lucyk. He and Daniel Gauthier in a bang-bang play at the crease with Jamie Leach charging into the offensive right corner and sweeping a centering pass to the goal crease for Gauthier. Daniel Gauthier crashed the crease, and he and Kerry Lucyk toppled into the net. Gauthier bounced back on the blades. Lucyk has to be assisted to the Comet bench by their trainer, Joe Franke. 5:42 for period two. The Cyclones have trailed throughout, but this is the third time they've narrowed the deficit to a singleton. They've outshot Fort Wayne 10-3 in this period, but they trail 6-5. Cyclones have outshot the Komets in every game in this series, including tonight. Biggs won the faceoff. Right point for Richer. Richer fired it wide. Rebound behind the goal for Hines. Right in front for Biggs at the crease, and Sidorkewicz places his left paw on that one before Don Biggs can pull the trigger. No further play. Boy, the Cyclones are gambling here. Gord Hines had raced in from the blue line behind the Fort Wayne goal. Cyclones looking for the equalizer. Face-off right of Sidorkewicz, Fort Wayne goal, 5:33 for the middle period. They trail 6-5. Biggs and Chin. One by Cullen, Chin behind the goal for Lambert. He'll round the net. Up by left wing in his own line for Tsyplakov. Clearing pass on right wing at center for John Purves, who storms into the Cyclone line. He's trying to wheel right in front. Richer thumped him loose. Control behind the Cyclone goal by Lawless. Now Paul Lawless on the gas. At center for Barry. At the Fort Wayne line. Skated off by Tsyplakov. Tsyplakov through center. Vladimir Tsyplakov crisscrossing with Chin, who takes the pass over the Cyclone line. Chin squares to the right circle. Right in front for Lambert, and he fired it wide. Puck to the Cyclone right corner for Barry. Head manning at center for Stefan Richer. Richer barges into the Fort Wayne line. Richer to the right corner. Shot! Right on. Sidorkewicz the save. As Stefan Richer tried the element of surprise with a sharp angle shot from deep in the right corner, but Sidorkewicz stood his ground vigilantly on the short side, locking the puck between his pads. No further play. 4:51 remaining in the second period, and it's 6-5 Fort Wayne. Face-off with the originate circle at the Sidorkewicz in the Fort Wayne goal. We invite you to stay tuned. Former Cyclones assistant coach and current Springfield Indians AHL assistant coach Blaine Stoughton will be our special guest coming up at our second intermission. Of course, Blaine Stoughton still resides in Cincinnati, and he's back home after Springfield was eliminated in the opening round of the AHL Calder Cup playoffs by the Adirondack Red Wings. Glenn Barry in the face of Lee Davidson. One by Barry. Barry bolts right in front of the big canter. That was just wide of the short side. Davidson behind the goal recaptures. Drove it around the boards. Halted left side by Greenlaw. Side of the goal for LeBeau. LeBeau centers to the crease. Smothered by Sidorkewicz with Greenlaw and Barry lurking on the doorstep. No further play. 4:38 for the middle period. And the Cyclones barrage continues in relentless fashion. Len Barry and Lee Davidson on the face-off. All ready to go. Sticks come down. One by Barry. Triggerman LeBeau, top of the circle. Drags it to the corner for Barry. Pinned by Davidson. He sheds the check. Delivered it in behind the goal. Sidorkewicz out of the goal. Swept it past Greenlaw, approaching to the left side for Boyce. Ian Boyce at his own line clears into the Cyclone zone. Controlled by Nedved. Nedved up the right boards at center for Greenlaw. Beyond him the length of the ice. Barry's behind the defense to reach it behind the goal in front of Kerry Lucyk. And that should be an offside infraction levied against the Cyclones. Let's see how they'll call it. The two linesmen, Kevin Mallon and Dan Sass, are there, and they'll call it an icing violation against the Cyclones. 4:14 remaining in the middle period. 6-5 Fort Wayne. Faceoff will develop, circle right of Ray LeBlanc, who's faced only 3 Komet shots in this second period. Danielle Gauthier for the Cyclones will oppose Fort Wayne's Max Mindendorf. All ready to go. Waiting for the linesman, Kevin Mallon. One by Mindendorf. Kicked it back left point for Lucyk. The Lucyk shot. Gauthier deflects that one over the glass into the crowd. No further play. 4:08 left, second period. It's 6-5 Fort Wayne. Mitch Messier and John Purves each have a pair of goals for the Komets tonight. Each of them have assists for 3-point nights. For the Cyclones, Don Biggs has 2 goals and an assist to spearhead their 5-goal attack. Cyclones' 5-goal attack has featured 2 power play goals and 3 opportunities, and a breakaway short and a goal by Don Biggs. Fort Wayne's 6-goal assault has featured 2 short-handed goals 21 seconds apart of the 9th minute of the opening period from Tretowicz and Messier. Now Igor Malykhin with a pair of assists tonight on the Fort Wayne defense. At his home line for Lucyk. Lucyk at center of Mindendorf. Jolted by a Leach, but covering on the left side of the center zone. Darin Smith drove it in behind the goal. Covering was Armstrong. Armstrong's clearing pass on the left wing at center for Gauthier. Halted by Lucyk, who steered into the Cyclone zone. They'll call a deliberate offside infraction on the Komets, Kerry Lucyk and Darin Smith. No further play. 3:45 remaining in the middle period, and it's 6-5 Fort Wayne. They lead the series 2-0. Komets have won 5 in a row, all during the playoffs, and that represents their longest winning streak of the year. During the regular season, Fort Wayne's longest winning streak was 4 in a row. Faceoff will develop, circle right of Peter Sidorkewicz, making his 9th consecutive start. He has started all 9 of the Fort Wayne playoff games. He's ranked 4th in the league in goaltending with a 6-2 record and a 2.73 goals against average. Biggs and Middendorf on the faceoff. Won by Biggs. Left point. Armstrong fired. Knocked down in front by Malykhin. Kangaroos to the right side of the goal. The puck was batted with a stick raised above the shoulder, I believe, by Paul Lawless. No further play. So that'll produce a faceoff outside the Fort Wayne line. Across the way from us on the Cyclone left wing, right in front of their penalty box. Very few penalties tonight. Certainly unlike the first 2 games in this series. In fact, in the first period, we only had 6 minor penalties assessed, 4 of those to the Cyclones. In the second period, the only penalty to Fort Wayne's Grant Richardson for holding at 5:56, with the Cyclones capitalizing with their 2nd power play goal of the night and their 10th in the last 5 playoff games. From the faceoff, Paul Lawless on right wing at center with a Fort Wayne line for Shahaki bursting between the defense, and it's skidded off his stick to the offensive left corner. Biggs is there to overpower Chim. Now Chim jerks down Biggs and got away with one, but it's dug out by Shahaki. Shahaki takes it back to left point, shooting. Sidorkewicz the save, he can't find it. It's underneath his pads. No further play. Paul Lawless has a few choice remarks for the referee LaRue after Don Biggs was yanked down by Cullen Chin deep in the offensive left corner. 3:12 left middle period. 6-5 Fort Wayne. Faceoff will be right as Sidorkewicz in the Fort Wayne goal. The Komets unleashed a 5-goal first period uprising. The Cyclones themselves riposted with a trio of goals. In this second period, the Cyclones have struck twice. Fort Wayne has answered once, and that goal is the margin of difference at the moment. The John Purves breakaway goal at 12:35. Don Biggs and Cullen Chin on the faceoff. Won by Biggs. Left fourth row then Barry. Barry trying to center one. Purves anticipates and he's away. John Purves zigzagging his way through center. Half the Cyclone line skidded off by Hines. Controlled by Gord Hines at his own line on the left defense. Hines up the boards at center down Biggs. Biggs wheels into the Fort Wayne line and Len Barry is way offside of the left wing. No further play. Now Cullen Chin, who's always loquacious on the ice, especially after the whistle, has something to say to Don Biggs, who fired the puck at the whistle with Len Barry offside. And that usually does happen. The defending team will take exception when the puck is fired after the whistle. I think Don Biggs was just completing his forward momentum. He had motion, he had notion to his motion. Faceoff will be outside the Fort Wayne line across the way from us on the Cyclone left wing. 2:55 of the middle period. 6-5 Fort Wayne. Barry won the faceoff on Davidson in the neutral zone. Reshad right wing. Drove it off Jeff Greenlaw to the front of the Fort Wayne goal. Captured there by Richardson. His pass stolen left boards by Barry. Into the corner of Greenlaw, thundering in behind the goal. Greenlaw brought it in front with a shot. Sidorkewicz the save. Fort Wayne penalty coming up. Patrick LeBeau was rolled to the ice in the crease by the Komet defense and Grant Richardson again. Second penalty of the period. Both to Fort Wayne's Grant Richardson. Richardson 2 minutes for interference, I believe is the call at 17:21. Cyclones are 2 for 3 on the power play tonight, but they've also surrendered 2 Fort Wayne short-handed goals in the space of 21 seconds. Richardson 2 minutes for holding at 17:21. Cyclones' 4th power play of the night. They're 2 for 3. And with 2:39 remaining in the middle period, the Cyclones have presented a grandiose opportunity now to finally come all the way back from 2-3 goal deficits and forge the deadlock. Faceoff will originate left of Peter Sidorkewicz in the Fort Wayne goal. Cyclones have outshot Fort Wayne 14-3 in the second period. They outshot the Komets Sunday night in Fort Wayne in the second period 11-3. Barry in the faceoff with Lee Davidson. They dig in. Won by Davidson, left corner, Lambert. He sends it waffling to the blue line. Knocked down right point by Hines. Drove it behind the goal. Sidorkewicz himself scaled it off the glass right boards. LeBeau is there to seize it. LeBeau back on right point for Biggs. Puck batted with a stick raised above the shoulder again. by the Cyclones, and that'll bring the faceoff all the way back into their own zone to the circle right of goalkeeper Ray LeBlanc. 2:27 for the middle period and 1:48 remaining in the Cyclones of power play. They've had both power play advantages in this period, but they still trail 6-5. Ray LeBlanc was installed in goal to replace the starting netminder Pokey Reddick at the inception, the genesis of this second period. Glenberry and Lee Davidson on the faceoff. Davidson assisted on both those Fort Wayne short-handed goals in the 9th minute of the opening period tonight. From the faceoff, Cyclones will control behind their own goal. Gord Hines pulls up sharply. Now Hines will engineer the 5-man power play rush. Gord Hines at his own line, lugs it through center, accelerates on the Fort Wayne line, sends Don Biggs dashing after the left corner. Biggs goes opposite corner right side for LeBeau. Behind the goal for Biggs, disrupted by Lambert, and on the Fort Wayne left side, it's Lee Davidson to fire to center. Richer backs it up inside his own line, up the boards at center for Biggs. Now Don Biggs on right wing, over the Fort Wayne line on the left side for Gord Hines. Hines drove it into the right corner, digging it out LeBeau. Now Patrick LeBeau down low for Barry. Barry to the right corner. Barry's pass for Biggs, disrupted by Lambert again. And Danny Lambert lashes it the length of the ice. 1 minute for the power play, 1:38 for the period, 6-5 Fort Wayne. Now Hines will control. Hines along the left wing board, swivels past the check of Purves. Hines at his own line for Richer. Richer in right wing at center for Biggs. Rinkwide left wing for Barry, who steps into the Fort Wayne line. Glenberry pulls up left boards. Barry goes cross ice right point for Armstrong. Armstrong along the boards. Armstrong at the hash mark. Armstrong into the corner for Biggs. Biggs opposite corner left side for Barry. Barry fans out left boards. Barry left point for Stefan Richer. Richer loads the gun and shoots when he fired it just wide. Barry with the rebound. Side of the goal for Biggs. Rolled it to the crease. Pounced on by Sidorkewicz. No further play. Exactly 1 minute for the middle period. 21 seconds for the power play. It's 6-5 Fort Wayne. The faceoff will originate deep in Komet territory. Circle right of goaltender Peter Sidorkewicz. Again, we want to remind you that former Cyclones assistant coach and current assistant coach for the American Hockey League Springfield Indians, Blaine Stoughton, will be our special guest. That's coming up in our second intermission tonight. Faceoff will be right as Sidorkewicz Fort Wayne goal. Cyclones starting goaltender Pokey Reddick is now back on the Cyclones bench. He has not been on the bench throughout this second period until now. Gauthier and Chin on the faceoff, won by Chin. Behind the goal for Kerry Lucyk, drove it around the boards. On right point, it carried right past Armstrong with a rather dizzying hop to the Cyclone line. Kidd covers. Kidd at center. Rinkwide and right wing for Gauthier. He ventures on the Fort Wayne line. Right in front for Lawless. The big hitter by Lawless. Right through the crease. Puck left point for Kidd. Kidd tried to direct it along the board for Leach. Cut off by Davidson. Davidson at center at the Cyclone line. Right board for Messier. Skidded off by Kidd. Dug out behind the goal by Davidson. Centering it. Boyce fires. He scores. Ian Boyce. And it's 7-5 Fort Wayne. Just as the penalty to Richardson expired. That is not a short-handed goal. But the Komets restore the 2-goal lead. They've had only 4 shots on goal in this period and 17 in the game. Yet they have 7 goals. Cyclones have completely dominated, but they trail 7-5. Just like Sunday night. They'll credit the goal to Mitch Messier and a deflection. Messier's 3rd goal of the night is 5th in 3 games in this series. Mitch Messier now has 6 goals in a 4-game Turner Cup playoff scoring streak. Messier from Boyce and Davidson, 3 assists for Lee Davidson tonight. 4 shots on goal in this period and 2 goals. 17 shots on goal in the game and 7 goals. 7-5 Fort Wayne. They've acted the opportunist role expertly throughout this series, in which the Cyclones have dominated but have nothing to show for it. From the faceoff, puck deep in the Fort Wayne or Cyclone left corner. 7 seconds for the period. That is a killer goal as far as the Cyclones are concerned. Nedved will just fire it to center at the horn, ending another agonizing period of hockey against Fort Wayne. Amazing. Fort Wayne had 4 shots on goal and they scored twice. 17 shots in the game and they have 7 goals. Amazing how this Fort Wayne team capitalizes on their breaks. 2 periods of play complete from the Cincinnati Gardens. The score, Fort Wayne 7. The Cyclones 5. We're on a 2.5-minute break. This is Cyclones Turner Cup hockey.
From the fun and games department here with the Cyclones, and I promise this one hopefully will be more entertaining as far as our contestants are concerned than the first one. No fault of our good friends at Snapple. Tonight, our good friends at WBN 102.7 brings us the Frog Shootout. We've selected 3 contestants. Say hello to Craig Miner, Dan Reed, celebrating his birthday out here, by the way, and Kristen Lucyk, everybody. I tell you what, Suzanne, get him in the crease. Get him in the crease. Hand each of them 5 pucks. Give everybody 5 pucks. Give everybody 5 pucks. Okay.
17 shots and 7 goals.
Now. Okay, put the sticks. Suzanne, take the stick away. We saw what happened in the first intermission when people used sticks, and they came absolutely nowhere close to the goal. So what we're going to do is make it easy on you 3. All you have to do is throw them the length of the ice into an empty net. And I've got some great prizes from WBN and the Cyclones for you upstairs. And it's not as easy as it looks. Okay, contestant number 1, Craig Miner. Go ahead, Craig. You got 5 throws. See? 0 for 2. 0 for 3. It's at Georgia Tech.
Terry Ficarelli rejoining you live from the Cincinnati Gardens. 2 periods of play completing game number 3 of this best of 7 Turner Cup Championship Series for the Eastern Conference, and the Cyclones are in serious trouble now. They trail by a pair of goals and are could be down 3 games to none in this series after tonight. The game refereed by Dennis LaRue, the linesmen Kevin Malvin and Dan Sass. In the opening period at 4:58, Cullen Chin triggered a Fort Wayne 5-goal first period onslaught as he connected in front of the crease behind his former teammate and Cyclone starting goaltender Ipoki Reddick. Chin from Purves and Tsyplakov at 4:58. Then it was Tretowicz from Davidson and Messier at 7:41 shorthanded. And then Messier from Davidson, both those shorthanded goals in 22 seconds on 2-on-1 fast breaks. It was 3-0 Fort Wayne before Don Biggs responded 27 seconds later on a Cyclones power play. His first of a pair of first period goals. Biggs from Nedved and Aikens at 8:30. Then Biggs from Greenlaw on a breakaway shorthanded. The latter's 5th goal of the playoffs and his league high 3rd. Shorthanded at 11:45. And then 30 seconds later, Don Biggs had another breakaway, still shorthanded. He was pulled out from behind by Dan Lambert. A penalty shot was awarded. Don Biggs just soloed in and rang it right off the crossbar. He had completely victimized the goaltender, Sidorkewicz. But again, the Cyclones could not catch a break. The Komets catching all of them, and they promptly proceeded to retaliate with 2 goals in 27 seconds to restore their original 3-goal lead. Purves unassisted as he completely unzipped and undressed the Cyclones defensive tandem of Dallas Aikens and Jaroslav Nedved, slicing through both of them. Purves 6th unassisted at 15:19, then Messier 2nd of the period from Boyce and Malykhin at 15:46. before the Cyclones. Jamie Lee scored his first in the playoffs from Gauthier and LaBelle. 1:13 later at 16:59. 8 goals registered in the opening period. Komets led 5-3. They outshot the Cyclones 13-12. First period has been the Cyclones' worst period all season long, and it has stayed that way in the playoffs. Right circle for Gord Hine. Center point for Richer with a shot. He scores! Landry deflects it. Power play goal. 5-4 Fort Wayne. Center point for Richer. Right circle for Gord Hine. Center point for Richer with a shot. He scores! Landry deflects it. Power play goal. 5-4 Fort Wayne. 12:35. Igor Malykhin found John Purves again breaking away behind Cyclones defense. Purves drilled his second of the night, his second 2-goal game of the series, his 7th goal in the playoffs for Malykhin at 12:35. However, 1:08 later, the Cyclones were posted with a delayed penalty coming up. Patrick LeBeau was grabbed from behind by the Fort Wayne defense, and he just was lead Davidson just draped over his back with a penalty coming to Davidson, but LeBeau somehow shed the Davidson check. Over the Cyclone line, a right wing dish for Boyce. Boyce in the circle, thumped by Armstrong, controlling the Cyclone right corner by Kidd. Kidd just drove it off the boards to center zone. Gary Lucyk races after it. The linesman fell at the Cyclone line, Kevin Malin. Lucyk at his own line, sends it into Cyclone territory. Collected in front of the goal by Kidd, leading on right wing at center for Daniel Gauthier. Gauthier at the Fort Wayne line for Leach on the right boards. He didn't expect him. Back comes Fort Wayne. Malykhin at center for Purves, breaking away the Cyclone line. Purves is in with a shot. He scores! Right wing at center for Daniel Gauthier. Gauthier at the Fort Wayne line for Leach on the right boards. He didn't expect him. Back comes Fort Wayne. Malykhin at center for Purves, breaking away the Cyclone line. Purves is in with a shot. He scores! John Purves, yet another Fort Wayne breakaway goal. And the Komets lead 6-4. They've been doing 5. That's 2 assists for Igor Malykhin tonight. Purves has his second 3-point game in the series. 2 goals and an assist. 6-4 Fort Wayne. Boy, the breakaway goals that they have registered in this series. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live at the Cincinnati Garden. 6:37 left, middle period. 6-4 Fort Wayne. LeBeau on the face on Boyce. Right point for Richer. Richer scampers into the corner. He barges in behind the goal. Sanity blocked in the crease by Davidson. Buck behind the goal. They jostle for it there. Dug out by LeBeau. Patrick LeBeau at the backboards. Squeezed by Davidson. They tangle struggling. LeBeau grabbed by Davidson, but LeBeau brought it in front. He shoots, he scores! Board from Messier, skidded off by Kim. Dug out behind the goal by Davidson, centering it. Boyce fires, he scores. Ian Boyce. "17 shots in the game, and they have 7 goals. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Cincinnati Gardens in our second intermission. Fort Wayne 7, the Cyclones 5. And it's a pleasure to have with us the former assistant coach of the Cincinnati Cyclones, who served in that capacity with the American Hockey League Springfield Indians, Mr. Blaine Stoughton. Stoughton, it's great to see you again.
Terry, how are you doing this evening?
Good. Talk about your season in the American Hockey League with the Springfield Indians.
Yes, we started off relatively slow. We were at one point, we were 10 points out of a playoff spot. And we hung in there and ended up making the playoffs with 3 games to go in the regular season, and had a relatively pretty good playoffs.
There's a lot of stories coming out of Springfield. The Springfield franchise transferring to Worcester, a new franchise coming to Springfield. You're really under the employ of the Hartford Whalers. What does this all mean for Blaine Stoughton's future?
Right now, there's a lot of speculation. Actually, everything is up in the air right now. When I left, Springfield hadn't really left for Worcester yet, but it was a done deal. I think the paperwork just had to be worked out. And then I think Springfield is going to acquire an expansion team under the head of Bruce Landon, the general manager.
Right.
And in Hartford, there's, I don't know if you heard all the rumors and innuendos, but there's all kinds of speculation of cleaning house, new owner. Paul Holmgren's had some problems. We had some problems with the player personnel. So there's a lot of speculation in the air right now.
Nice to be back in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I just got back on Thursday. I really haven't adjusted, just kind of reacquainting myself with my children. But it feels good to be home.
What did you notice as the differences, Blaine, between the American Hockey League and the IHL?
First of all, the personnel in the American League is a lot younger. They're a little more aggressive. They're a lot tighter checking. I don't know if this game is an indication of all the games this year, but the American League games, by and large, are closer checking, harder hitting. They make a lot of mistakes. You're younger kids, obviously, than you have in this league. And, the goaltending is very good in that league.
What have you seen in this game tonight that's interested you? This is the first really